Welcome, everyone.
Yay.
Welcome to this Being You Day Facebook Live. My name is Max, and this is my lovely friend Norma.
Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone, to our judgment-free zone. Oh, my God. This topic of today's live, Max, it moved me so much. What if every wrongness of you is a strongness? And I'm like, whoa, am I going to talk about my wrongness and strongness? Wow, what does it bring to you?
It's literally one of my favorite topics because it's one of the things that's given me the most freedom. Like from the access tools, there's a huge toolbox, but the recognition of one of the things when you notice wrongness in your universe, what if that is one of your greatest strongnesses and you've always identified it as a wrongness? And there's been so many times for me personally where I've been in huge wrongness about something, whether it's like money or relationship or whatever it is, and then recognizing somewhere down the track how I actually have a huge capacity with that specific thing. I just wasn't willing to acknowledge it. I was avoiding it, and going into the wrongness was one of my ways of avoiding that strongness and actually having that gift in my life. So I've seen this in my life so many times. So I'm so happy to be talking about this.
Yeah, me too, this was pretty much the way I got by everything in life. Since childhood, I was like that child that would say something that was exactly what was supposed not to be said. And then I was made wrong for that, even if people didn't say that. But I could sense that thing that, oh my God, that goes that child again doing that. And I started to buy that I was wrong, that I could not say things, that it would be wrong. And then with the access tools, I just started to realize that I was so aware, like exactly the topics that people, for instance, didn't want to talk about them. Those were exactly the things that I would say. So I got the strongness in that case was being aware of what people were actually putting out, but were not saying. Wow.
Yeah. So you were the psychic mouthpiece for all the stuff that people were hiding and keeping secret in your life when you were young. Yay.
Totally.
But isn't that interesting too? Like no one, when we're younger, and I'm going to speak for most people, like if this is incorrect for you, lucky you, and you're watching this, but being the psychic one in the room and then putting them like all of the secrets, the hidden stuff that you're aware of, and then putting voice to that, like everything that people didn't want you to say. What if that's actually that strength and that capacity rather than a wrongness? And this is something that we want to talk about for the half an hour specifically because it is so relevant for so many people.
Exactly. We can grow into I don't know how many years believing that it's the wrongness. And what if it's not? So we were just saying just a little bit before we got to the live here, we were just commenting on everything is the opposite of what it appears to be, and nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be. And this, for me, is a huge tool when we are looking into wrongness and strongness, because so often what people consider a wrongness of you, or of what you consider a wrongness of you, is actually a strongness. So, wow, this is so freeing. Even if on the very first moment when we start asking about that, even if we don't get what is the strongness here, what is right about this that I'm not getting? It's okay. We just keep asking and keep using the tools, and then you start to realize so many things, like what I got, that I was like the psychic mouthpiece for what was going on. So yeah, there are so many examples of that.
Yeah, totally. So I wonder what examples you guys watching this can think of in your life. And one of my favorite things about this that makes it easy to remember is that it actually rhymes. What if you grace wrongness if you grace strongness? That helps. And what if you applied this? Because this is the tool from Access Consciousness. Okay, it's actually, you utilize this, you use it. When you notice that you're really in wrongness, what if you ask the question of, okay, I heard these people talk about this thing of what if my wrongness is my greatest strongness? What if you ask yourself, when you notice that, where you feel so wrong, you can't see anything outside of that wrongness? What if you just ask, okay, what if this is a strongness? Universe, could you please show me? Because you start to open yourself up rather than closing down, shutting down into that degree of wrongness and shut down when nothing else gets in. I imagine a lot of you guys are familiar with that too. And being the question, like asking a question of, okay, what if this is actually a strongness? To open up a little bit of possibility to let in something different. Because only if you ask a question can you let something different in. If you function from the same point of view, the same conclusion, the same energy of shutdown, it's really difficult to have something else show up with that. So the tools are really about opening up for you to discover what's actually true for you. And that's the real gift, is for you to find out.
Exactly. And I love it to say that because for me, I got that going to wrongness was such I don't know what pattern, I don't know how even to put that into words, but it was my default way of procedure. Anything that goes wrong, I was wrong, I have to fix something and all of that. And these tools with what's right about me, I'm not getting. What's right about this, I'm not getting. Uh, Going to wrongness, it's such a contraction and it's so tight there. And the space that this creates, it's like it gives you a different possibility. And suddenly you start noticing things that just were not there before, or they were. And you were not allowing yourself to be aware of them because you were so compressed into your tiny little world of I'm wrong, this is wrong, I don't have a choice here. So, wow, it's just so freeing and liberating to be able to use that at any moment, even if no one else knows, even if no one else is aware of that, you know. And then there's also this piece. It has been like that for me, Max. I don't know how it is for you. There is this point where you really gotta be willing to a different choice with that, you know, to say, oh, I'm not gonna go into that anymore, and be willing for that to change. And then different things that start to reveal themselves. And yeah,
Yeah.
I'll let you talk. I'm talking a lot.
Oh, I can totally relate, because I could talk about this forever and ever and just keep going. And I love what you're talking about there, is like making that demand and making that demand for awareness. Because we don't have to know what things are going to look like, what we're going to change exactly, or you just have to make a demand for something different. And that's why the question is so beautiful. And even this tool of like this, first of all, recognition of, okay, what if this wrongness was actually a strongness? And bringing that question, was that demand for greater awareness, whatever shows up. Because one of the other very first questions that I normally ask when I come across any sort of heaviness or funk is, who does this belong to? And which is another amazing primary tool of Access Consciousness. So even that thing of like, what if that wrongness isn't even yours? And you start discovering that your strongness is actually how aware you are, like recognizing how aware you are is that strongness. And what if you were just aware of somebody else or other people that were in intense wrongness or intense rightness with underneath that is an intense wrongness, like that thing that Norma said again, like you're psychic. So you can discover all of these different subtleties and layers, and something that might have been plaguing you for your whole life that you've misidentified as yours, first and foremost, and then as this wrongness that's yours. What if that's not the case? What if something different? What if, once again, the strongness is that you're really different and aware of something really different? And the questions can really open that up.
Exactly. And you know, something that I love also, Max, is that however your life is for everyone watching us, you can apply those tools to your life. Exactly. In the situations that are presented to you and dealing with your family, with relationships, or whatever and whatever, you can use that and find out for you how that works for you. And I love using those examples because it kind of tickles everyone to looking into their own lives. So, for instance, I work with translations for Access, and I also did translation before coming to Access. And there's one thing when we are translating, like, for instance, translating a live a class, a live event. For me, one of the greatest gifts is that I just have this total freedom of not going into my thinking, which is something huge for me. So, for instance, if the speaker says something, a word, or use an expression that I don't know, I don't have the translation for that in Portuguese, I just keep going. If I go into judging me or, oh my God, anything, I just miss the whole point, the whole sentence, or the whole of what's being said. But to keep moving and keep going, and then there's always a way around where the speaker will make the point clearer or go through that again, or it will just show up whatever word I require. So I got that. There's also this piece that we do have a choice of not going to that road and stopping ourselves from that can be such a huge gift. And also knowing that it's not, it's not the end of the world. It's not so big. Sometimes we take ourselves so seriously, right?
Uh-huh. Totally. And I'll give it a bit of a live example as well, because I'm noticing there is talking about this topic and, streaming through all the access platforms for this. As a facilitator, like I noticed during this live, I was putting up some barriers, and there is a sense of wrongness. So first of all, for me, it's like acknowledging that. And I tend to push a lot of energy and try and get things right as a coping mechanism for the wrongness, rather than fully acknowledging the wrongness or that awareness, let's say, and adding a different energy flow. So for me, in this case, like vulnerability is real key, because it's easy for me to, with that wrongness, not go into vulnerability and go into rightness instead, to try and like balance it out. So having more vulnerability with this too, just as a bit of a live example, this is like my process at this time. Maybe some of you guys that'll like help with recognizing how we deal with this when the wrongness comes up. And yeah, what if the vulnerability is a strongness? And what if that's a far bigger gift than, the coping mechanisms, the barriers, the separations that we do, and then how we look to judge ourselves. Yeah.
Exactly. It's just, yeah. I'm here, barriers down. This is what's showing up for me. Awesome. Max, there's a question from YouTube for us. So how can I overcome the wrongness, what I feel, and not willing to know what it actually is?
Great question. Do you want to start on that, Norma?
So one thing, what if you don't go with that, with so much? How much do we have to judge ourselves, first of all, in order to consider ourselves wrong? Okay, so what if you're just present with whatever it is that is going on for you, and then you just ask, what am I aware of here? What is it? Or what's right about this? And don't expect an answer right away. Just be with the question and just be with the willingness to be aware of whatever you are aware. But there are lots and lots of things that we are aware and we had no idea we were aware of them. So allowing yourself this space, or maybe also something that you can do is to expand yourself. Expand, just ask to expand, to occupy the space, the whole space of the room that you're in, and go even further beyond that. When you have the space, you actually cannot hold on to so much of the contraction that is going on around us. And this is also could be a great cue for you to access something different. What if it was not wrong?
Cool. Yeah. And something that I notice people do a lot, and I've done a lot, is misidentify knowing for thinking. And thinking is the lower harmonic of knowing. But when in the question here of not willing to know what it actually is, my sense is what you're actually asking for is to be able to cognitize it, to be able to get in your brain what something is, what the awareness is. And partly that's what Norma's saying in what she spoke about beforehand too. Like, what if you didn't have to cognitively know? What if you were just willing to have the energetic awareness? Because getting the energetic awareness will come way before you might have some sort of cognitive grasp on it. So I'm a head tripper of magnitude, which means I do a lot of stuff in my head. And it used to be like way more than it is now. So like using the tools, it's allowed me to be aware of the energy a lot more and not try and figure things out in my head so much and cognitize things. And that's a huge degree of freedom when you know that that's not required. And the thing that I said before about coping mechanisms, some of us will use thinking as a coping mechanism. So rather than be aware of the energy and actually go more into the energy, which oftentimes requires some degree of vulnerability, especially when the wrongness piece comes up, because we try to like get away from it. We try to go into rightness. We try to like do everything except relax into the wrongness. And even more than that, relax into the awareness. Because what if it isn't you? What if it's not you that's having the wrongness, being the wrongness? So there's nothing really to overcome. There is just more awareness to have about what you're aware of. So this relaxation into awareness can be a real key into getting more of what something is that you're, either aware of. It might be a specific situation. It might be something that you're more universally aware of. So it's like present with you a lot of the time. But the relaxation can really help with getting what you know in this.
Yeah, relaxation is such a huge piece for that. Such a huge piece. Relaxation, space.
Yeah.
And
There's another comment here too from YouTube. I make myself so wrong creating cancer and so impossible to see it as a strongness. Thank you for the tools. So thank you for that feedback. And I mean, thank you, Gary and Dain, for the tools. Because it is so huge. What if, so one of this thing about cancer, I think is a really great sort of point too, because we can easily make these things, certain things very final, and therefore the wrongness is real, and therefore you are wrong, and therefore, you know, like we use these reasons, justifications to make the wrongness or the point of view around it so much stronger. What if we, like Norma said, expand out energetically in all directions, but also from our point of view, so we can have a different point of view? What is right about this that I'm not getting is another question. When there is this intense degree of wrongness, like we don't see how something can have a gift in it. What is right about this that I'm not getting? And so no matter what it is that you have going on in your life, including cancer, including anything that's sort of like a terminal thing, what if you're an infinite being? What if beyond this body's lifetime, you still create you? So what's possible even beyond this lifetime? Even if you don't have a terminal thing going on, what if you look at beyond this lifetime, what is possible for you? What would you like to create way beyond that? To really make our point of view bigger than where we tend to function from, which is sort of like this reality that tells us, you know, you only have a life once, you only have this body, and then everything's final and done, and etc. What is possible beyond that? What do you actually know?
Yeah. This is something that, thank you for that, Max. It's so, yeah, on point and so beautiful. And also with cancer and other condition, there's a lot going on in terms of projections and expectations and how one's supposed to feel and treatments and this and that. So as you probably have heard around in the other lives, using the clearing statement, that tool is amazing also to destroy and create all the projections and expectations, and starting to get to this, to the you, to the space of you. Also, on the Being You Changing the World book, on chapter 9, it's so amazing how Dr. Dain talks about this whole scope of things that we do with our living, with cancer, he mentions, with dying and death. So maybe this could be a good idea for you to take a look at that and ask some of the questions there, because they are so free and liberating. And these access tools, they have such a different way of looking at things and at life and all the different situations where we really don't have to make ourselves wrong and small anymore.
Yeah, totally. And we all have our own weird reasons why the wrongness is real and why it's ours. Do you ever, I mean, let's look at it from this perspective. Do you ever see an animal making itself wrong? Like wrongness and rightness doesn't actually exist in nature. And this is something that I heard Shannon, my wife, talk about, who's also an access consciousness facilitator. She's spoken a lot about this. Like when you look to nature, you get to see a lot more of what's actually true when you're looking for greater consciousness. Like a tree doesn't judge itself. Even a strangling, you know, those strangler figs that grow up other trees and then kill that other tree, they don't even judge themselves, even though from our point of view, we can see how wrong that is and how bad that is, and it's killing another thing, it's taking advantage of it and all this sort of stuff. But judgment, right and wrong, good and bad, literally does not exist in nature. It's a figment of our imagination that we all agree upon, but it's actually not real. So what if your strongness was also to the willingness to go beyond that?
Yeah.
Not believe in judgment.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. I love that. And I love that we can have such different perspective with all of that. And with that, we do have so many tools that we can use whenever, however, whenever we want, right?
Yeah.
So I I think we are pretty much coming to the
It's the
end of
end of the beginning and the beginning of the end.
yeah.
What's possible now?
What is possible now? Yeah,
Yeah.
just coming out of wrongness.
Yeah, so there is so many amazing facilitators on these Being You Day lives. Like I encourage you guys really to look at the recordings that are on the YouTube channel, that are in all the different languages and so forth, and then all of the ones that are coming up as well. This is part of Being You Day, which is an annual day of, beingyouday.com, where it's like all of these possibilities that we're talking about. There is such an infinite field of possibility that we have available to us. And yes, it might take a lot of work sometimes to get over ourselves and to get more aware and to have what's possible. And for me, it's so worth it. It is so worth it. So if you guys are similarly interested, check out all this stuff. It's all free and it's all there for you. There's going to be so many tools and so many great things, so many great facilitators.
And there's the
Or
grand
something different.
finale. And there's the great finale on June 22nd, and you can get your free ticket for the grand finale with Dr. Dain Heer, a
Yeah.
2-hour event at beingyouday.com. Yeah.
Sure. They'll probably have fireworks and all sorts of stuff. I don't know. When Dain talks, there's usually a lot of fireworks.
Cool.
Cool. Thank you so much, Norma. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Max and everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.